Good evening, everyone. I'm Sumitra, here to introduce the speaker for this session, Dr. D. Murlidhar Rao. Sir is currently working as Associate Professor in Department of Biotechnology, Sri Krishna Devaraya University, Anantapur, AP, India. Dr. Murlidhar Rao did his BSc Botany Zoology Chemistry optional from SV University Tirupati. He has obtained MSc Gold Medal from SV University, MPhil and PhD degrees from the same university, Anantapur. Postdoc from Indian Institute of Science, IVRI, Bangalore. Dr. Rao qualified National Eligibility Test conducted by UGC. Dr. Rao has published 4 books and 150 research articles, both in Indian and foreign journals. Dr. Rao has got 4 patents. Sir is also recipient of Young Scientist Award at international level, CIPRA Innovative Gold Medal. Dr. Rao is a member of Board of Studies in JNTU Anantapur and Kakinada. Sir is also editorial board member and reviewer for several national and international journals. Sir was honored with Visiting Scientist Award by JNTU Center for Advanced Scientific Research, Bangalore. Dr. Rao is a fellow of Society of Biotechnology and Bioinformatics and life member of Biotech Research Society, India. Dr. Rao guided 18 PhD candidates, conducted awareness programs on science and technology. Sir has also delivered many invited talks on current biotechnology frontier areas. Dr. Rao is advisor for 4 biotech companies, and his current areas of interest are medicinal plants, research, anti-inflammatory compounds. Thank you, sir, for accepting our invitation and being a part of this webinar. I kindly request you to start the session. Thank you very much.
Very good afternoon to all. The present topic is molecular typing of microbes. I am Dr. D. Murlidhar Rao, working in Department of Biotechnology, Sri Krishna Devaraya University, Anantapur. The present topic is one of the important topics in the field of industrial microbiology, environmental microbiology, industrial biotechnology, and as well as medical biotechnology. What is exactly meant by molecular typing? Why molecular typing is important rather than the conventional methods? What are the different techniques which is extensively used in the molecular typing of microbes? First, let us look at what is meant by molecular typing. Molecular typing refers to the methodologies used to identify these lineages and define them at subspecies level. If you can take some 10 species, 10 E. coli or 10 bacillus, same species, but phenotypically they look similar, but there is a small changes even at a small nucleotide changes level. It shows its impact on its phenotypic characteristics. How to identify these small genetic variations within the species? That is the very important aspect in molecular typing. Microbial typing has important implications in several health-related fields such as surveillance of infectious diseases, outbreak investigation, and control identification of pathogen reservoirs, and studies on pathogenesis. Now we are all facing the problem of COVID. Scientists from different corners, they are saying that there are different types present in corona. How to identify these types? To identify the types within the species, the important technique molecular typing is useful to identify the types. Molecular typing is a way of identifying the specific strains of microorganisms, either a bacteria, virus, or fungi, by looking at their genetic material. It is also used to pinpoint the source of different microbe outbreaks, such as your chikungunya and Spanish flu, TB, tuberculosis, or it is also now useful for corona type identification also. It can also be used to identify which microorganisms are most virulent and cause serious diseases, resistance to antibiotics, able to survive and multiply. Coming to the applications, hospital epidemiology. So we can identify multi-drug resistant strains in the medical field, environmental, industrial and agriculture microbiology, and also its applications in microbial ecology studies also. If you can look at microbial fertilizers, most of the Azotobacter species or Azospirillum, we can identify up to type level which strain is very efficient to give highest amount of biofertilizers. Most of the traditional methods, basically they rely on phenotypic characteristics. These characteristics are morphology of an organism, shape of an organism, and pili present on the membrane, shape, and different biochemical reactions. The typing system in single species is based on serotype, biotype, phase typing, antibiogram, multilocus enzyme electrophoresis, and two-dimensional polyacrylamide gel electrophoresis. The problem here is exclusively for traditional methods, they are affected by the physiological factors and not sensitively and sufficiently not sensitive to distinguish between the strains. And apart from this, as I mentioned a while back, there are different phenotypic markers like serotyping, phase typing, biotyping, antibiotic susceptibility testing, and bacteriocin typing. The problems in the use of these phenotypic based method is, for example, phase and bacteriocin typing systems are not available for all bacterial species, and serotyping can be very laborious process and also costly process also. Phenotypic markers may not be stably expressed under certain environmental or cultural conditions. In contrast, some of the newer molecular typing methods involving the analysis of DNA offers many advantages over traditional methods. If we can look at small changes in DNA is very useful to distinguish the species up to type level. One of the more practical advantages is that since DNA can always be extracted from bacteria, the discriminatory power of DNA-based methods is greater than that of phenotypic procedures. Most of the classification and as well as identification of bacteria is very important in environmental, industrial, medical, and agricultural microbiology. Different phenotypic and genotypic methods, as I mentioned here, like 16S ribosomal DNA sequencing, AR-DRA, DNA-DNA reassociation, tRNA PCR, ITS PCR, RFLP, LFRFA, pulse phase gel electrophoresis, multilocus isozyme studies, AFLP, RAPD, and repetitive PCR, etc. So these are all very important techniques which is highly useful for typing of various microorganisms. Each of these methods permits a certain level of phylogenetic classification from the genus, species, subspecies, biovariety to the strain specific level. One of the very important technique is 16S ribosomal RNA. So this is the component of 30S small subunit of prokaryotic ribosome that binds to the Shine-Dalgarno sequence. The genes coding for it are referred to 16S ribosomal RNA gene and are used in reconstructing the phylogenies due to the slow rate of evolution of this region. The two important gentlemen, Carl Woese and George Fax, pioneering workers, where the people they used 16S ribosomal RNA in phylogenetics. If you can look at this gel, this is the picture of gel picture of 16S, 10 different strains of Pseudomonas, one E. coli, one negative control, where genomic DNA is subjected to 16S, DNA forward and primer, reverse primer, DNTPs, tag, PCR reaction buffer, PCR conditions, etc. We can see small variations in the gelling pattern. Once if you get this, it must be subjected to the sequencing. So once if you get the sequence, it must be subjected to the different available sequencing databases where we can find the similarities. So this is the broad picture about the typing, identification of various kinds of organisms from different sources like food, feed, environmental, plant, human and animals, where direct isolation, and then we can see the antibiogram here, and identification by through MALDI-TOF or 16S ribosomal RNA API, we can get the sequence data. And this, the typing method, then important DNA fragment based typing like AFLP, pulse field gel electrophoresis, VNTR, and DNA sequencing based typing, SLST, MLST, and whole genome sequencing. So now we will discuss what are the prime techniques and how to use these techniques for typing of different microbes. These are the steps for ribosomal RNA gene sequencing: isolation of DNA from any source, bacterial source exclusively. This we can take it from same species or different species. Heat to separate the strands and specific primers, primer extension with the DNA polymerase, and we must repeat the above steps to obtain many copies of 16S ribosomal RNA gene. Run an agarose gel electrophoresis to check the correct sized product, purification, and sequencing this PCR product. Once the product from PCR products, that it must be subjected to the sequencing, we can get the data and to analyze the particular data by different softwares such as the BLAST is one of the prime softwares, we can get the similarities. Based on this, normally now we are identifying bacterial species. Now, what is a molecular chronometer? Most of the prokaryotics, 16S ribosomal RNA gene is considered as a molecular chronometer. All the fingerprinting methods for subtyping are ultimately based on the differences in the genome sequence. Therefore, DNA sequencing would appear to be the best approach to differentiate the subtypes. However, it is impractical to sequence the genome of every microbial strain because it is very laborious process and as well as the costly process also. So sequencing of stable marker genes, every organism it has own stable marker genes. So sequencing of stable marker genes are considered as potential strategy for microbial typing. This particular 16S ribosomal DNA is most conserved locus. It has been proposed as an evolutionary clock and most used molecular chronometer to measure the evolutionary relationship. The bacterial identification and differentiation is generally based on PCR amplification of 16S ribosomal DNA gene followed by sequencing with its known 16S sequence databases. We can find it the sequence similarities in NCBI or PIR or DNA Data Bank of Japan, etc. in available sequence databases. This is one of the very prime and present day most of the people they are using to identify bacterial species. Another important technique is ribotyping. What is ribotyping? Ribotyping uses banding patterns of ribosomal RNA for strain typing. In this method, genomic DNA is digested, transferred to a membrane, and probed with a conserved ribosomal RNA probe to provide a pattern of ribosomal RNA genes. Each strain produces a unique pattern which can be used for typing. If you can just look at this diagram, here 3 different strains of bacteria, then cut it with the restriction enzyme and do the electrophoresis, gel electrophoresis, agarose gel electrophoresis. DNA fragments separated by size and transferred DNA to the nylon membrane, hybridized with DNA probes, we can find the ribotyping profile. There are different profiles that we can find at the end. The procedure, we call it as ribotyping. It is one of the important and very useful technique for typing the microorganisms. Another crucial technique, very powerful technique is amplified fragment length polymorphism. This is also a PCR based technique which uses selective amplifications of a subset of digested DNA fragments to generate and compare unique fingerprints for genome of our interest. The power of this method is mainly it doesn't require any prior information regarding the targeted genome, as well as it is having high reproducibility and sensitivity for detecting polymorphism at the level of DNA sequence. So this technique AFLP is widely used for plant and microbial studies, and it has variety of applications such as genetic diversity studies within the species or among closely related species to infer population level phylogenesis and biogeographical patterns to generate genetic maps and to determine relatedness among cultivars. So variations of standard AFLP methodology have been also developed for targeting additional levels of diversity like transcriptomic variations. There are small variations in the transcriptome. This is also very useful to distinguish the species and DNA methylation polymorphism. There are 5 steps: restriction, digestion, and ligation, and pre-selective PCR amplification of subset of restricted fragments, selective PCR amplification, and electrophoretic separation of amplified DNA fragments, scoring and interpretation of the data. Here the picture which gives you the same thing here. This is the some bacterial species, overnight culture, resuspension bacterial buffers, and then we will subject it to the restriction enzyme digestion of bacterial DNA and the separation. Well, very prime technique, very useful technique is RAPD for typing, where we can use a 10 decamer primer. This was developed in way back in 1990, PCR based method. RAPD is different from conventional PCR as it needs one primer, universal primer, which is having, we can call it as 10 decamer primer. The size of primer is normally 10 nucleotides, so it is called as 10 decamer, and therefore it is less specific. And the primers can be digested without the experimenter or having any genetic information for the organism being tested. More than 2000 different RAPD primers is commercially available right now in the market. So where we can get the different pictures, RAPD pictures amplified by PCR. Based on this pattern, we can distinguish the different species up to the variety level. Where the picture gives you about there are different sources, samples, and isolation of your DNA, preparation for different PCR reactions by using amplification or thermocycler. We'll call it as PCR, and then we'll subject it for random amplified polymorphic DNA analysis. And we can, by looking at the gel image, by pattern analysis, we can see the Jacquard's coefficient or cluster analysis. Based on this, we can classify or identify the species. The amplified fragments are resolved on a gel matrix, yielding a profile which is referred to as a repetitive PCR or genomic fingerprint that we will discuss now. This is where the genomic DNA, which was subjected to the PCR separation by size on gel electrophoresis. We can find the different gel pattern. Based on this, we can get the data, and we will use different softwares to analyze this data to know the variations within the species or among the species up to the type level. It is one of the very basic experiment, random amplified polymorphic DNA. See, these two pictures, if you can see, look at these pictures very carefully. The gel pattern, RAPD gel pattern of bacterial, 10 bacterial species having different levels. Based on, we can see the lot of diversity in the gel pattern here. Well, the advantages is it is very fast, relatively very inexpensive and highly variable. And advantages is markers are dominant, and presence of band could mean the individual is either heterozygous or homozygous for the sequences, cannot tell which is either it is homozygous or heterozygous, etc. And data analysis is more complicated also. We'll use the Jacquard coefficients, etc. To know the similarities, and then we can find useful genetic linkage. Getting the genetic linkage here is also somewhat complicated. We will discuss here. Well, now very advanced technique is amplified ribosomal DNA restriction analysis, which we call it as ARDRA or DRA experiment. In turn, this is called as PCR RFLB of ribosomal RNA genes. We will look at the ribosomal RNA genes and its variation. So it is amplified ribosomal DNA restriction analysis. So this particular experiment, which uses of universal primers to amplify bacterial ribosomal DNA sequence, followed by digestion with frequently cutting restriction endonucleases such as ALU1, HAE2, etc. The resulting fragments are separated by agarose gel electrophoresis and subject to the computer assisted pattern analysis for typing. We should have some important software to analyze this particular data. This will be useful to identify strains at the genus level, species level, and is very useful for phylogenetics and as well as the taxonomic studies. Suppose if we can take a Corynebacterium species to know how this Corynebacterium species is evolved and what are the genetic linkages between these Corynebacterium species, we must study the ARDRA experiment. It is a faster than 16S rDNA sequencing typing, and hence which is extensively used for the analysis of large number of samples. Suppose minimum it should be a 50, 100, 200 species samples. Yeah. The ARDRA method, coming to the methodology, is genomic DNA with 16S DNA forward, reverse primer, DNTP stack, and we'll use ALU1 and HAE3 restriction enzymes, where we can see the different gelling pattern here with 2% agarose gel and 100 base pair ladder. So analysis of the phylogenetic tree is mainly with the software. So we can get the phylogenetic tree and we can find the genetic linkages also. Well, another typing experiment is denaturing gradient gel electrophoresis. Every DNA has its own denaturing capacity. It is unique. Based on this denaturing gradient gel electrophoresis, we can identify or we can differ the species. In the 1993, Mujur et al. DGGE, they worked on DGGE of PCR amplified ribosomal DNA for microbial typing. DNA fragments of the same length but different sequences can be separated. This separation is based on the decreased electrophoretic mobility of a particularly or partially melted double-stranded DNA molecule in polyacrylamide gels containing a linear gradient of DNA denaturants. Now we think that phase electrophoresis is only meant for proteins like that. Now, in DGG technique, we can separate the DNA by using the polyacrylamide gels, where the gradient is the mixture of urea and formaldehyde. Very beautiful experiment. We can separate, we can get very excellent bands for identification of microorganisms up to the type level. And similarly, there is another experiment which is TTG, where we can call it as temporal temperature gradient electrophoresis, where partially melted double-stranded DNA is separated on linear temperature gradient. The melting of DNA fragments proceeds in discrete so-called melting domains. Stretching of base pairs with an identical melting temperature. Here, the melting temperature of DNA is one of the criteria. Every organism difference which has its unique melting temperatures at a particular position in the denaturing or temperature gradient gels. A transition of helical to a particularly melted molecule occurs and migration of the molecule will be practically halts. So, sequence variations in such domains causes the melting temperatures to differ and molecules with different sequences will stop migrating at different positions in the gel based on its density gradient. By using either DGG or TTG, 50% of the sequence variants can be detected in DNA fragments up to the 500 base pairs. So, which is used to estimate the microbial diversity of environment through the metagenomic approach. Metagenomic approach is very important approach. We can identify DNA from soil also, soil microorganisms DNA. We will analyze this DNA and we can isolate the specific genes from metagenome to use to determine the redundancy in the clone libraries and to estimate the abundance of particular cloned 16S ribosomal DNA inserts in the natural environments. Yeah, the procedure now goes like this. These are the cells. We can extract the DNA material, the total DNA, subjected to the PCR and checking the yield of PCR products using agarose gel electrophoresis, where the particular PCR product again subjected to gradient gel, either DGG or TGG, temporal temperature gradient gel electrophoresis, density gradient gel electrophoresis. For density gradients, urea and formaldehyde is very useful. So cutting the fragments out, the gel, eluting the DNA and amplification with the PCR without the GC clamp and purification of sequence of these fragments. The advantages of the present technique is very sensitive to variations in DNA sequences, which allows simultaneous analysis of multiple samples and a very useful method for monitoring shifts in community structure over the time. Community profiles can be analyzed with cluster analysis. The use of universal primers allows the analysis of microbial communities without any prior knowledge of the species. The DGGE technique is very useful. The fragments separated by DGGE can be excised, cloned, and sequenced for identification. It is possible to identify constituents that present only 1% of the total community. The technique, which is highly useful to study the phylogenetics and functional genes. And most probably, the DGG technique, which has used to elucidate and characterize microbial populations in many bioleaching environments, including bioreactors also, and acidic mining impacted environments and bioleaching heaps. And one of the disadvantages is DGG analysis is very time consuming process and also suffers from same backdraws as all PCR based community analysis techniques, including bias for DNA extraction and amplification. The variations in 16S rRNA gene copy number in different microbes makes this technique only semi-quantitative. Microheterogeneity in ribosomal RNA encoding genes present in some specific species may result in multiple bands for a single species and subsequently to an overestimation of community diversity. And heteroduplexes can cause bias to the observed diversity. No method for automated analysis is currently available right now and works very well with short fragments for up to 600 base pairs, thus limiting phylogenetic characterization. Gels of complex communities may look smeared due to the large number of bands and band positions that not provide reproducible taxonomic informations. Well, results difficult to reproduce between the gels and as well as the laboratories also. You can look at, this is the equipment of DNA gradient gel electrophoresis. This is the main unit where the gradients, urea and formaldehyde is used for the gradients, where most of this DGG technique is extensively used to study the phylogenetic patterns. Here you can see the gelling pattern, how a gel looks with the DGG. Polyacrylamide gel is used exclusively in DNA gradient gel electrophoresis and as well as temperature gradient gels also. So Leonard Lerman, he was the pioneering worker invented by DGG was invented by this man, and he was a professor at SUNY Albany. The same requirement can be used for analysis of protein, which was first done by Thomas E. Crichton of MRC Laboratory of Molecular Biology, Cambridge, England. And similar looking patterns are produced by proteins and nucleic acid, but the fundamental principles are quite different. And simultaneously, the another experiment, TGGE, was first temperature gradient gels by Thatcher and Hodgson, by Roger Wartell of Georgia Tech University. Thatcher and Hodgson, they are two persons, and then the Roger Wartell. The extensive work was done by the group of Ressner in Germany. The commercial equipments, we can get the DGGE from a Biorad company, etc. And TGGE is available from Biometra. Well, the temperature gradient gel electrophoresis, the principle is same based on the gradient. There is the density gradient, here the temperature gradient. So the temperature gradient gels depend changes in the structure to separate the nucleic acids. DNA has a negative charge and so will move to the positive electrode in an electric field. So a gel is a molecular mesh which holds roughly the same size as the diameter of the DNA string. When an electric field is applied, the DNA will begin to move through the gel at a speed roughly inversely proportional to the length of the DNA molecule. shorter length of DNA travel faster. This is the basis for size dependent separation in standard electrophoresis. In TGGE, there is also a temperature gradient across the gel. At room temperature, the DNA will exit stably and in a double standard form. As the temperature is increased, the strands begin to separate, melting, and the speed at which they move through the gel decreases drastically. Critically, the temperature at which melting occurs depend on the sequence. GC pairs, base pairs are more stable than AT due to the stacking interactions. So, TGGE provides a sequence-dependent, size-independent method. Just you can look at here, this is the equipment which is extensively used for TTGE. On the right side, we can find the band ring pattern, TTGE gels. Another important advanced method molecular typing is internal transcribed spacers, ITS sequencing. What is this ITS? The spacer DNA situated between the small subunits of ribosomal RNA and large subunit of ribosomal RNA genes in the chromosome, or the corresponding transcribed region in the polycistronic ribosomal RNA precursor transcript. It is one region within the ribosomal RNA. So in bacteria and archaea, there is one single ITS, remember carefully, and located between the 60S and the 20S ribosomal RNA. In bacteria and archaea, the ITS occurs in 1 to several copies as do flanking the 16S and then 23S genes. When there are multiple copies, these do not occur adjacent to one another. Rather, they occur in discrete locations in circular chromosome. The ITS region is mostly widely sequenced DNA region in molecular ecology of fungi and has been recommended as universal fungal barcode system. 16S is exclusively meant for prokaryotic organisms. 18S is exclusively meant for eukaryotic organisms, whereas the ITS region sequencing is exclusively useful for fungal barcode sequences, where we can generate fungal barcoding DNA printing database. Yeah, this is the pattern, gelling pattern of ITS and ITS tDNA sequencing, where we can find the lot of differentiations in gel pattern diversity here. Here you can find this is the place where, as I mentioned while back, this particular region between 18S and 20S, this is the region where we can call it as ITS region, in between the 18S and then 28S. The advantages of this ITS sequence is it is widely used in taxonomy and molecular phylogeny because of several favorable properties. It is routinely amplified thanks to its small size associated to the availability of highly conserved flanking sequences. It is easy to detect even from small quantities of DNA due to the high copy number of RNA clusters. It undergoes rapid constant evolution through the unequal crossing over and gene conversion. This promotes intragenomic homogeneity of repeated units, although high throughput sequences showed the occurrence of frequent variations within plant species. It has a high degree of variation even between closely related species. So this can be explained by the relatively low evolutionary pressure acting on such non-coding spacer sequences. For example, ITS markers have proven especially useful for elucidating phylogenetic relationship among the fungal taxa. Well, There are three important PCR techniques like repetitive PCR, rep PCR, ERIC PCR, and box PCR genomic fingerprinting. PCR is a machine, but the methodology, ERIC PCR, repetitive PCR, and box PCR genomic fingerprinting are very important. Repetitive PCR genomic profiling makes use of DNA primers complementary to naturally occurring, highly conserved repetitive DNA sequences present in multiple copies in the genome of most gram-negative and several gram-positive bacteria. There are three families of repetitive sequence have been identified. The 35 to 40 base pair repetitive extragenic palindromic sequences, where we can call it as rep sequence. 124 to 127 base pairs, enterobacterial repetitive intergenic consensus, where we can call it as ERIC sequence, and 154 base pair box elements. These are the conserved regions, conserved sequences, rep, ERIC, and box. So the corresponding protocols referred to as rep PCR, ERIC PCR, and box PCR genomic fingerprinting separatively. And repetitive PCR, rep PCR genomic fingerprinting, these are the very important fingerprinting methods, typing methods exclusively used for typing of microorganisms. Well, you can just look at the nuclear ribosomal internal transcribed spaces, where ITS region as a universal DNA barcode marker for fungi. The paper was published in PNAS. The people they studied Conrad et al. The paper was published in 2012 in PNAS, where which gives the clues how to barcode DNA barcode for specific fungal species as such. Well, SSCP marker, single strand conformation polymorphism, based on the differences in the conformation of single stranded DNA fragment. It is also a PCR based. Once PCR step is performed using a fluorescently labeled primer. After the PCR double stranded DNA is denatured by heat and cooled on ice to prevent the renaturation. Single stranded DNA fragments are separated in polyacrylate gel electrophoresis and detect using the UV light. The electrophoretic mobility of DNA fragments depend on their three-dimensional conformation. The polyacrylate gels can be traditional gels, or alternately an automated capillary gel electrophoresis can also be used. For the traditional gels, the fragments can be cut out and then sequenced with automated capillary electrophoresis devices, and the various DNA fragments can be identified based on the retention types. Just if you can look at the SSCP device, very important device, PCR, denaturing, cooling, and then having the isotopes here, you can get the different gelling patterns of single stranded DNA molecule here, where we can perform the capillary electrophoresis in this SSCP. Where we get the gel, this is the right side, this is the gelling pattern here, and amplified DNA, denaturation, rapid cooling, separation, and then electrophoresis. Well, often a detailed characterization of strains can be obtained applying one gene primer set. The box primers is generally recommended since it generates robust fingerprints and yields high complex fragment pattern. And repetitive rep primer sets generates a lower level of complexity, but still which yields reproducible and differentiating fingerprints. ERIC primer set is more sensitive. If you can look at for viral species, this ERIC PCR is very important, and more sensitive to suboptimal PCR conditions such as the presence of contaminants in DNA preparations, but also generate highly discriminatory patterns. Well, this is the picture how a photograph of ERIC genomic fingerprints resolved on ethidium bromide strained agarose gel. Here we can see the number of black and white scanned gelling patterns of Xanthomonas different species, coming to 8 species. It has even then within the Xanthomonas we can find a lot of variations in the gel pattern. Here they used 1 kb size ladder. Well, the total technique and then the protocols which was mentioned in Enterobacterial repetitive intergenic consensus sequence as molecular targets for typing Mycobacterium tuberculosis strains. The paper was published in Journal of Clinical Microbiology way back in 1998 by different scientists from Italy. So the implications of molecular typing of Helicobacter pylori isolates from different human populations. Mycobacterium tuberculosis also having high number of types. Simultaneously, Helicobacter isolates from different human populations by genomic fingerprinting of ERIC PCRs for strain identification and geographical evaluation. This particular paper is also published by Journal of Clinical Microbiology in 2004, which gives you the major clues about the ERIC PCR. This is the repetitive PCR genomic fingerprints of 38 non-specified Xanthomonas strains belongs to DNA homology of rule 4 and 6 using the product movement of UPGMA method. And this is a RAPD gel, how it looks like with Salmonella enteritidis isolates with one primer. We can see the different gelling pattern here. 1 kb ladder was used here. Well, another important experiment is ARISA, 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 automated ribosomal intergenic spacer analysis, which exploits length variations in the intergenic regions between the 16S and 23S of ribosomal RNA genes, encoding for the small and large subunits of the ribosomes respectively. So PCR products obtained from primers targeting this region can be individually electrophorescent in a manual approach or fluorescently labeled, detected with a capillary sequencer in relatively high throughput fashion. Like TRFLP, ARISA is most commonly used to characterize mixed populations in complex samples, but can also be used to type and discriminate individual strains. This is a very beautiful experiment based on variations in the intergenic regions. So this is the criteria for the distinguish or to know the types of the particular species. Multi-locus sequencing typing MLST, most of the people are not doing this, and most of the published MLST schemes vary between 6 and 10 loci, and where housekeeping genes, MLST is based on the sequencing of housekeeping gene fragments of approximately 400 to 600 base pairs in length. The number of loci depends on the application. For subtyping, at least 7 is mostly recommended. Based on this, we can consider we must subject it housekeeping gene fragments. Just if you can look at here, based on the separation of fragments depending on the size and determination of repeat units, the 7 is more consideration. We can find the fragments depending upon the size and number of repeat units. Based on this, we can differentiate the things here. Well, for all these, where repetitive PCR, ERIC PCR, box PCR, ORDRA, RFLP, AFLP, etc., we need a software to analyze the data. Computer-assisted repetitive PCR genomic fingerprinting is highly necessary, and different appropriate clustering methods for phylogenetic analysis, which is very crucial for success of genome typing. So why it is very important? Because though they look like very similar, but they are different. This can be identified by genotyping marker. Each DNA profile is unique. Based on this uniqueness of each DNA, we will identify organisms, or will study the phylogenetics, will study the molecular phylogeny or genetic linkages by using these type of markers. Well, there are different markers apart from these for different organisms, like for eukaryotics also, like RAPD, APPCR, DNA amplification fingerprinting, and mini hairpin primer driven DAF, and arbitrary signature from amplification profiles, AFLP, ALU PCR, repetitive PCR, microsatellite primer PCR, anchored MP PCR, RAMP technique, random amplified microsatellite polymorphism, random amplified hybridization microsatellites, RAHM, and nucleic acid scanning by hybridization, RAPD dot blot hybridization, and DDRT, differential display reverse transcription PCR. This is very important for viral species. RNA arbitrary primer PCR, cDNA. These are the amplification based nucleic acid scanning technique for most of the organisms. And amplification based nucleic acid profiling techniques is amplified fragment length polymorphism by Jeffrey group, and mini satellite variant repeat PCR, where we can call it as MER PCR. Simple sequence repeats PCR, SSR PCRs, and sequence targeted for most of the organisms, ASO, allele specific oligonucleotide hybridization, Tachman ASO, allele specific reverse dot hybridization, SSCP, single standard conformation polymorphism, CAPS, cleaved amplified polymorphic sequence analysis, coupled amplification and sequencing, amplification refractory mutation system, oligonucleotide ligation assay, coupled amplification and oligonucleotide ligation, genetic bit analysis, oligonucleotide arrays. So coming to the end, DNA fingerprinting like RFLP, Southern blots, RAPD, PCR analysis, these are all one of the important offshoots in DNA fingerprinting. Well, regions of chromosomes that code for proteins where the exons that we can take into consideration for DNA, more than 80% of the DNA which consisting the non-coding region. Well, RFLP is another technique, as I mentioned a while back. There are different fragment lengths of base pairs that result from cutting a DNA molecule with the restriction enzymes. It is the length differentials associated with DNA strands or RFLPs that allows one to distinguish one species to the another species. So the overview of the RFLP: digestion by restriction enzymes, electrophoresis, and detection of the gelling pattern, and finally subjected to different biological database softwares. So this is the digestion. If you can look at 3 plasmids with different nucleotide sequences, restriction, digestion, sites of the digestion, where we can find the fragments of DNA molecules. So this is the where we can get the, after digestion, different kinds of DNA fragment lengths. Based on the DNA fragment lengths, we can identify the species. A single nucleotide change can make a difference. If you can see, look at here, there is a 4th place in the wild type, that is a T here, where in mutant allele this is a G. A single nucleotide change can make a difference. So the main use, the main important topic, how it is done is, DNA is our source, cut into millions of small fragments by using the restriction enzymes which aim for STRs. So fragments separated by electrophoresis, different fragments move at different rates through the gel. And the smaller fragment, the faster it moves. DNA is separated into bands according to size of fragments. The pattern of fragments are transferred to a nylon membrane by a process, very important process. We can call it as Southern blotting. So radioactive probes which are used to attach the specific parts of the fragments. Any probe not bound to the washtub and the membrane is dried and sheet is placed under the X-ray film. The radioactive probes on the DNA fragments expose the film. This produces visible pattern of light and dark bands which is unique to individual. If you can look at the gel and the banding pattern of light and dark bands which is unique to each individual species. So let me make a stop here. In a nutshell, molecular typing is one of the important techniques to type, to recognize of any organism of our interest, exclusively microbes, up to type level. There are different techniques ranging from 16S ribosomal DNA to the DTGE, DGGE, or AFLP, RFLP, SSCP, or ribotoping, etc. These are techniques are many. So we must know which technique is useful and which technique is easy to handle based on our lab requirements or what is our intention. Or if you want to study the phylogenetics, you must use one technique. If you want to know the identification of a species up to type level, you must use one technique. Or if you want to know the relatedness, or if you want to know the genetic linkages, you should use one technique. So based on this, the main motto, we can study the molecular phylogenetics, we can study the efficiency of the strain, which is extensively used for different purposes. So let me make a special thanks to the Chaitanya Bharati Institute of Technology for arranging very good webinar. This is very useful for all participants because gathering present day is very difficult. So you can sit in your home and you can listen the lectures from very eminent people. Chaitanya Bharati Institute of Technology, in particularly Department of Biotechnology, having very excellent teaching fraternity and then having highly dedicated teachers. I am very much thankful to the CBIT for giving me this opportunity and interacting all of you. And my special acknowledgement to my teacher, Professor Gunashekaran, Professor Venkateshwarlu Garu, my teacher, Professor Ramraj Shekaran, DBT, Government of India, University Grants Commission, CSR New Delhi, and authorities of our university, Sri Krishnadevara University and IISc Bangalore, all the people who spread their knowledge, who shared their knowledge for me, in particularly in the field of molecular typing. Well, there are many queries will be there, and you can mail me at rao.muralidhara@gmail.com. I am very happy if you can mail me your queries or etc. regarding this talk or any other activity related to the science. If I know, I will give you the answer. If I don't know, I will get the answer and then I will give you. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to express my thanks to Dr. D. Muralidhar Rao Garu for his wonderful lecture. Thank you, sir, for sharing your thoughts and experiences and profound knowledge with all of us here on this webinar cum FDP series. Thank you very much, sir. It was a learning experience for me personally, and I hope the same with the audience. And we would like to have you for more such events, and we would like to have your association with CBIT for the future events, sir. Thank you very much.